If legend were to be credited, it all boiled down to the curse of Gorakhnath. Poised to conquer the Kathmandu Valley, Prithvi Narayan Shah, the ruler of Gorkha, encountered a sage and, as per custom, offered him a bowl of curd. The sage consumed the gift, then vomited it into the container, which he gave to the ruler to drink in turn. Incensed, Prithvi Narayan Shah threw the contents onto the face of the sage, who, in a trice, metamorphosed into a deity of sorts, wrath wreathing his face. The ruler begged for forgiveness, but the vengeful spirit, named Gorakhnath, was having none of it. The curse was immediate. Kathmandu would be taken, and the Shah dynasty would rule, but only for 10 generations. As it turned out, 233 years would separate the moment when Prithvi Narayan Shah took control of the Kathmandu Valley in 1768, and the horrific event of June 1st, 2001, when Crown Prince Dipendra gunned down his immediate family and wounded other members of the extended clan before shooting himself. In the interim, there would be internecine feuds, royal fratricides, and the development of a parallel dynasty, the Ranas, hereditary prime ministers for over a century. It was fraught stuff, this ruling of Nepal, tensions often boiling over amidst the strife of kinsfolk attempting to govern a bewildering array of subjects. Among the most peculiar was a category of Buddhists who had non-celibate monks, the Vajracharyas. One of them, Pandit Amritananda, would become a source of information on the origins of his religion to eager Western entrants, including the first British resident, Captain Knox, and arguably the most fascinating individual in the same capacity who ever lived in Kathmandu, Brian Houghton Hodgson. The intersection of the British with the fortunes of Nepal was not incidental. It had everything to do with the expansionist intentions of a dynasty on the make. While Prithvi's younger son, Bahadur Shah, amplified existing territorial gains, an ambitious and middling soldier, Bhimsen Thapa, through a series of intrigues and strong-arming tactics, executed 93 individuals who were potential threats and oversaw the death of 5 queens of the late Rana Bahadur to Sati. A 6th was spared, who happened to be a kinswoman, his niece. That niece, Lalit Tripura Sundari, played the role of regent for over 25 years for an infant king, Girvan Yudha, and later his son, Rajendra Bir Bikram Shah, allowing Bhimsen unrivaled supremacy over Nepal's polity as Mukhtiyar or Prime Minister. However, Bhimsen's invasions were viewed with a jaundiced eye by the British. Matters came to a head through the Anglo-Nepal War of 1814 to 1815. The result was a British victory and the Treaty of Sugauli in 1816, an arrangement that saw the annexation of many of Nepal's gains to British India. Additionally, the demand to locate a permanent British resident in the Kathmandu Valley was accepted. In return, Nepal was allowed to retain her autonomy. The British had, after a fashion, come to stay. Among them, the aforementioned Brian Houghton Hodgson. Born in 1800 or 1801, the date is still uncertain, he would stride almost the extent of the 19th century, dying at the age of 94. Drawn to the prospect of a career with the East India Company, he entered its training college in Haileybury, Hertfordshire, at the age of 16. Hodgson emerged as head of his term, with a gold medal and a mastery of a Bengali. Duly equipped, he set off for Calcutta the following year, where he flung himself into further study. He worked hard, lived hard, and suffered a breakdown in health shortly afterwards. His doctor's uncompromising advice was 6 feet underground, resign the service, or get a hill appointment. Hodgson chose the last and was posted in 1819 to Kumaon. His sinecure there under the Commissioner George William Trail afforded him insight into how to govern a region far-flung from a centre of command, be it England or even Calcutta. Trail was a district officer who did what was right in his own eyes, as with little regard as possible to the central control. Hodgson internalised this lesson well. It would both advance and eventually cost him his career. Hodgson was subsequently transferred to Nepal, where he was appointed as assistant resident to Edward Gardner. After a brief move to the Foreign Office in Calcutta, he returned to take command of the Post Office in Nepal. His resumption of assistant residentship in Kathmandu came in 1825, and 4 years later the retirement of Gardner propelled him into the hot seat of acting resident. Finally, in 1833, he became full, permanent resident at the age of 33. Hodgson was not merely cooling his heels until the plum dropped in his lap. Even as assistant resident, his life was a ferment of activity as he engaged in a series of studies of the local wildlife, people, and religion, in particular Tibetan Buddhism. The most important role that Hodgson played, however, was in the Nepali court. In 1832, the regent Lalit Tripura Sundari died, and her successful collaboration with Bhimsen Thapa ceased. Her demise allowed for a rival faction, the Pandey clan, to come to power. Mortal enemies of Bhimsen Thapa, they succeeded in forcing his vacation of office, followed by periods of sustained incarceration and harassment. With this turn of events, the period of Pacific engagement with the British residency under Hodgson came to a close. Through his long years of residency in Kathmandu, his understanding and sympathy for the Nepali people was profound, and his studies of the law and religion won him widespread admiration among the local priests and scholars. His standing and that of the nation he represented was all of a sudden in peril. The Pandey regime claimed a small principality in 1840 in defiance of an existing treaty with the British. The East India Company demanded its return, whereupon the Nepali troops mutinied and threatened to attack the residency. An alarmed Hodgson sought intervention from the company, which was immediately forthcoming with successful demands for return of territory and compensation. Hodgson went further, demanding the dismissal of the Pandey ministry in favour of one more acceptable to the company. In 1842, the retirement of a supportive Governor-General, Lord Auckland, in Calcutta, and his replacement by Lord Ellenborough occasioned a different turn of events. Ellenborough wanted the residents at various courts to serve only as neutral intermediaries. Such a course of action was detestable to the independently minded Hodgson. With Lord Auckland gone, subordinate functionaries of a similar bent had to leave, and Hodgson was no exception. It owes to his credit and the regard in which he was held that the Maharaja, Rajendra Bikram Shah, sought to intercede on his behalf. Even his cruel and capricious son, Crown Prince Surendra, was aware of just how significant Hodgson's role had been in the Kathmandu Valley. A tragic element in Hodgson's departure related to a long-standing liaison. Apart from the fact that he was not allowed to leave the Kathmandu Valley, no European woman was permitted to set foot in it. Hodgson despaired of ever finding solace in his life, suggesting to his favourite sister Fanny, "It is pretty clear that a bachelor's lot must be mine." Then he met Mehranisa Begum in the 1830s, a story shrouded in mystery, with rumour suggesting that she was either an aristocratic woman of Kashmiri descent or a dhobini, a washerwoman, who Pandit Amritananda may have been responsible in introducing to Hodgson after having an affair with her himself, the evidence for which is tenuous at best. The cohabitation between Hodgson and Mehranisa resulted in 2 offspring, a son and a daughter, both of whom were sent early to Europe. The son, Harry, returned to India and died in 1856, while the daughter, Sarah, fell prey to tuberculosis in 1851. Of Mehranisa herself, little is known after Hodgson's departure. He did not take her with him, and there is no evidence that she ever saw her children again. Hodgson would live for several years in Darjeeling, in a house that he denominated Bryanstone, before leaving the subcontinent for good in the 1850s for England. Hodgson's departure would not change the fate of Nepal. Matbar Singh Thapa, Bhimsen's nephew, was appointed Prime Minister after the fall and purge of the Pandays. Yet, his strategic shifting of loyalties among the various royals would ultimately come to grief. He was, upon orders, shot by his own sister's son, Jung Bahadur Rana. After another session of bloodletting in 1846, called the Kot Massacre, Jang Bahadur was named Prime Minister. He ushered in an age of a parallel hegemony through what came to be called the Rana dynasty, in the role of Prime Ministers, which was confined to his family through succession by younger brothers rather than sons. For over a century, the Shahs were confined to sybaritic seclusion in first the Hanumandhoka and then the Narayan Hithi palaces, while the Ranas became de facto rulers and lent their bloodline to the royal flow. That bloodline was also accompanied by bloodletting among relatives in seeing which branch of the Ranas would govern. It was only in 1950 that King Tribhuvan effected a grand escape with his son and older grandson by feigning a trip out for a picnic and then leading his convoy into the Indian embassy, which promptly provided asylum, while the then embattled Prime Minister, Mohan Shamsher, desperately attempted to get the fled royals to return, if only to regain legitimacy for his government. Terms were agreed after 2 months, and King Tribhuvan returned in triumph, with the government dissolved and reinstituted at his command. While the Shahs were firmly back in power, democratic forces were beginning to assert themselves in Nepal. Tribhuvan's son Mahendra allowed for multi-party democracy, which patently failed in 1959 and was replaced with a panchayat system, where the king still retained controlling power. That system was adopted by his son, Birendra, upon his accession in 1975. Yet, the grumbles continued, waxing and waning periodically, but gaining momentum until a crisis occurred in 1990, resulting in what was called the People's Movement or Jana Andolan, where about 2 lakh ordinary citizens took to the streets in front of Narayan Hithi Palace on the 6th of April, demanding the reinstitution of political parties that had been banned. Police reacted, first with tear gas, then live bullets. In all, 63 people died. King Birendra, a gentle, retiring and considerate person, refused to deploy the Royal Nepal Army. Instead, he proclaimed the end of the panchayat system, and with it, his own nearly absolute powers, offering to become a constitutional monarch instead. Over the next decade, he continued as such, even as the newest experiment with democracy lurched from one political party to another. One significant outcome occurred in the realm of the left-leaning contingent, where, in 1994, Pushpa Kumar Dahal, more popularly known as Prachanda, rose in prominence. His wing of the Unity Centre would come to be known as the Communist Party of Nepal Maoist, or CPN Maoist for short, engaging in what it called the People's War. Over the last few years of the 1990s, the Maoist group would launch sporadic attacks in pockets of western Nepal, resulting frequently in the deaths of policemen. Little changed with the passing of the millennium, and in February 2001, the charismatic leader, now officially named chairman of the Communist Party of Nepal Maoist, launched an idealist manifesto which his eager supporters swiftly took up under the eponymous name Prachanda Path. Despite the brewing change in Nepali society, King Birendra's immediate source of worry was literally at home, through his oldest son, Crown Prince Dipendra. A complex character, he was known to be affable, charming, and deeply committed to his country's well-being, yet also capricious and authoritarian. Trained initially in Nepal, he was sent to Eton in England, where parties involving intoxication soon became the stuff of infamy because a foreign royal was involved. However, what was of longer-lasting note was an association involving the outspoken and articulate daughter of a Nepali politician and also the great-granddaughter of the last Rana Prime Minister. The young woman, Devyani Rana, was also a scion through her mother of the princely and prominent Indian family of the Scindias in Gwalior. The blossoming romance bothered Dipendra's controlling mother, Queen Aishwarya, who was a descendant of a rival Rana clan. Things went from bad to worse. The mild king was influenced by his wife against what they saw as a dangerous dalliance. In this they were supported by their obedient daughter, Princess Shruti. As feelings hardened against Devyani, Dipendra threw caution to the winds, arranging to meet her in various parts of the city, apart from odd excursions beyond Nepal's borders. By the turn to the new millennium, the frustrated prince was presented with an ultimatum: choose Devyani and cede the right to succession to the throne. This did not sit well with Dipendra, already smarting for years at the change in his father's status from total to constitutional monarch, and the implications for his own reign when it came to pass. Taking increasingly to drink and drugs, coupled with a predilection for the use of firearms, his behaviour in light of continued disappointment turned to the irrational. For a party held on the occasion of his 29th birthday, he slapped his sister, who was at the time in a late stage of pregnancy, because she had dared to oppose him. Exactly a year later, the dispirited crown prince, thwarted time and again in his hopes and his ambitions, not least in love, under the influence of dope and drink, emerged in battle fatigues with firearms and proceeded to gun down his father, mother, sister, brother, 3 aunts, and uncle and cousins present before apparently shooting himself. He languished for 2 days in a comatose state, during which time he was declared king, despite the assassination of his father at his own hand, before dying himself. In one fell swoop, the entire senior line of the Shah dynasty had been wiped out, except for Princess Shruti's 2 infant daughters. Prince Gyanendra, the late King Birendra's brother, was crowned king, the 3rd in 3 days. His reign was not easy. The Maoists resumed attacks. In turn, he arrogated greater control to himself in 2005, suspending the constitution. The country went into turmoil. It did not help that Prince Paras, his son, who had survived his cousin's rampaging, was known to be a playboy who had run over and killed people on 2 occasions, including a celebrated playback singer. The thought of such an unsavoury character being crowned prince and later king sat sourly in the mouths of the common body politic. In 2008, the Nepal Constituent Assembly formally abolished the monarchy, ushering in the multi-party system that marks the country today. Of salience is the fact that the once revolutionary and insurgent Prachanda joined the mainstream political process, and as recently as the May of this year, 2017, was Prime Minister before giving over to Sher Bahadur Deuba of the Nepali Congress in a power-sharing agreement. The musical that you are about to witness draws upon elements of this vast historical backdrop, specifically Hodgson's sojourn in Kathmandu as British resident during the 1830s and 1840s, and the dramatic events that extinguished most of the immediate royal family in 2001, to cast light upon our intriguing geopolitical neighbour via the narrative that we bring to you. Welcome to C Minor's The Sun Was White, the Moon Disobedient.
What is all the population sleeping? Don't they know Kathmandu's bleeding now? Can you conceive what will rock the city when it knows what's hit Narayan hitting now?
Why, what's happening? Shot? Who?
His Majesty the Princess too! Prince Nirajan!
Who shot them? Who?
What's going on? What is this madness taking over? Who could eat
The Crown Prince!
What?
He killed his mother too.
Rumors about may come in clouds of menacing purpose over Nepal. Something was plotted within Kathmandu. Something was festering like a boil. Something was suppurating, putrid, oozing from the poison soul.
And it was the 1st of June, 2001.
betray, how you conspired at the end of the day to cast a nation to its knees in some maleficent disease. 10 royal dead will lie atop a funeral pyre, still smouldering fire.
The son who shot Kathmandu has been named to rule instead, but this avatar of Vishnu lies comatose with a bullet in his head. He couldn't even finish the job properly.
Divining rod, please tell me how this is played. When God kills, God, shouldn't the earth be afraid? Please advise us what to do when this celestial point of view is shuddered on.
Oh, must we languish in this horror and this anguish? Must this madness quite consume us? Till you say till thirsting bloodlust, and we're lost to your grandstanding shore higher.
Smoldering fire, still smoldering fire, still smoldering fire.
Miss Roy,
Oh, Mr. Hodgson!
come away from this crazy confusion. Come away now, there's a place not far. You'll be safe there till it's over.
The embassy!
And where's the car?
Charu! Charu!
Afraid he's gone, or didn't you notice? No, I'm sorry, it's all happening just too fast.
We might walk.
8 miles you couldn't make it, all the roads are blocked, the dangers of a riot are too close. They press upon the unsuspecting round the corner of the next one who'll be caught within this madness, closing in upon this darkness. I suggest you skip your turn.
But where then shall we go?
Trust me,
What choice have I?
very little. Come away from this insanity, I promise you, there is hope inside.
To think when I started in the springtime, now 3 months, it could end tonight.
I was at the golf club yesterday, and they are saying that they are out of golf balls. The quality of these.
Sir,
What is it?
new diplomat, sir.
Country?
India.
Another one. Wing?
Commerce. She's leading it.
She.
Why not?
Let's see. Manjushree Roy.
No, certainly not a boy.
But a girl, she's 32.
And Bengali, I'm guessing?
Yes, sir.
More Rabindra Sangeet spout. I already have my doubts. Just 32? A woman besides? And to add to it now, Calcuttan pride.
Darjeeling.
Huh?
She's from Darjeeling, sir.
Really now? Does she speak Nepali?
It says she is fluent. She also speaks English, Hindi and Bengali as you would expect. Then there is Marwari.
How come?
She is half Rajasthani. Mother.
Now all we have to do is wait for her to establish some remote connection to Chittoor, and we have ourselves a long-lost royal cousin.
Not so lost actually. There's reference here to her lineage. Not a direct descendant though, actually rather distant.
And she speaks Russian.
So she does.
How did that happen?
BA in English and Russian, Residency College, Calcutta, MA in Russian and Ukrainian literature, University of Odessa.
Which means she speaks Ukrainian too.
Thank you for the gem of original insight, Prokar.
I'm sorry, sir.
I wonder if she has leftist leanings.
I don't know, it doesn't say.
She might be sympathetic to the Maoists.
She is highly recommended. The Indian government will
to
not
hell with the
kindly-
Indian government.
Not to put too fine a point on the matter, but the Indian government could, if it wants, have us by the balls, or the general area, as Richard Nixon would say, the short and curly.
Nonsense. The Chinese would never allow that.
Or the Indians could deliver us to the Chinese for similar service. I believe their grip is far more vigorous. Have you heard differently?
The Chinese have disavowed the Maoists.
And that is why the Tibetans do not have a Maoist crisis. Lucky them.
That's not what I meant.
When His Majesty's ancestor Prithvi Narayan founded the Shah dynasty here in Kathmandu, he said Nepal was a yam between two boulders. He meant India and China, of course, and this was over 200 years ago. It is wise to remember.
About Miss Roy?
Approved. Ask her to present her credentials in person on Monday.
Yes, sir.
I'd better be going to.
So soon?
Yeah. See you at the club.
A woman. And young. And maybe a communist royal. What an irony. A royal communist. Interests, birdwatching. Now Hariraj might be just the man.
Well, what do you think?
Riveting.
I mean, seriously.
What'll I gain by lying?
A promotion. I like flattery.
Thank you, but since the next step up for me is the position that you just occupied, you might want to rethink that general policy.
Okay, you're right. On both counts. Do you have a copy of West Side Story somewhere? Just play I Feel Pretty 10 times over so that I can feel it too.
You're nervous?
Of course, I'm bloody nervous. This is my first assignment abroad.
Well,
It is abroad too.
Nepal, you're an optimist.
Don't think I haven't heard the whole, oh my God, what a diplomatic backwater, before the sickly sweet, my dear, couldn't be happier for you. Heading the commerce wing and on your first assignment, so creditable. But I'm determined to make the best of this. I am, except that...
Shall we forget West Side Story? Perhaps I whistle a happy tune from The King and I, or I have confidence from The Sound of Music. I could even sing you Climb Every...
Oh, come off it.
I was trying to help.
You were doing no such thing. Anyway, the car should be here soon and then I shall go and present.
Take the trip and present your credentials. Simple.
Just like that.
Just like that.
You're right.
It's what's next that gets intriguing.
Meaning?
Wait and see.
You are no help whatsoever.
Presenting your credentials is the easiest thing to do. You turn up for inspection, which will happen head to shoe. The file is incidental, they've seen it all before. It's you they're wondering after, enigmatic and demure.
Demure would hardly sum it up. fractious, brash and proud, aware of my commission and wearing it aloud. With modesty approaches all they happily expect. There'll be something within the mix they'll very soon detect.
All that might be very well, but please don't be oblique. You're representing India here. I'll trade in cheek for cheek. Gather up the praises, dear, with elegance and poise. The calmer swing requires tact, not bluster, rant and noise.
Oh, come on, Kalpan, I'm not a child that needs scolding.
Forgive me, counselor, but I think an incident's unfolding.
And there's not a thing you wouldn't do to nip it in the bud.
For all intents and purposes, it's sooner blood than mud. 'Cause keeping up appearances is what it's all about.
You feign the look and mind the lip.
Remember, smile, don't pout.
I'll paint the act with coats of class. They'll soon be on their knees.
Queen Aishwarya will be watching. She's impossible to please.
Whatever happened to the I have confidence and I whistle a happy tune?
Just a moment of groundedness. You know she'll despise you.
Because I'm trade.
Because you're a woman.
Wish me luck.
Oh, sure, you'll be fine. You'll even have fun. Just don't forget. Even the walls have ears.
As if I could. I bet our entire exchange has been recorded.
How did you?
I guess we both can carry a tune. Coming. My dearest Daddy,
My dearest Fanny,
and 3 days after my arrival in Kathmandu, I'm confirmed as the head of the commerce wing.
and 16 years after I first reached these climes, I'm finally dignified with the position of resident.
At all of 32,
And I am 33.
Pyrrhic victory, or an outstanding opportunity in a place that time forgot.
I must confess that in comparison to Calcutta, Kathmandu seems so very benighted then. But how? I've been furnished such reasons to revise my views entirely.
Should I have taken the Benelux post? Lived in Brussels, shopped in Paris and dined in Amsterdam. All right, far junior, but so exciting. I can almost hear you say, so bourgeois.
But you remember what the doctor told me? 6 feet under if you stay in the plains, resign your post, or get a hill assignment. Have I regretted it? Occasionally. I dissemble. Let me have it out. Yes, and yes. And yet today, all a distant memory. For I would hazard, my dear sister, that at long last, I have finally arrived.
What does it mean to be here? What does it mean to lie in state for state and nation? Lying abroad is what they say ambassadors do. In my own way and form, I'm an ambassador too. What does it mean to play a part apart from all the people? get when they see me.
What they observe, they will get when they see me. I don't have time to deliberate. I don't have time to ponder my fate. Yet, Fanny, every little bird I see is a hope soaring high in an anthem flung around every cloud adrift and thrilling to the blue. Far away,
Far away,
far away,
hey, hey,
far away,
far away,
smiling down on you.
far away,
Far away,
so far away.
hey, hey, far away, smiling down on you.
Oh, and I almost forgot. I have a date. Well, officially. That was a bad pun. It's honest to God just bird watching though. He's been assigned to me by the Home Minister. Name of Hari Raj Thapa. Some high up in the diplomatic corps. Tomorrow, 6 a.m. Should be interesting. Better brush up on my fly catchers though. By the time you visit, I'll be an expert.
Time to wrap this all in love and say goodbye for the moment. Till the next time from you, adieu.
Hold it right there.
Why?
In the sal tree, train your binoculars on the 5th branch left.
I don't quite...
There, moving in the thicket.
Ah, I see it. No, wait, it's gone.
Go around, try the other side. It's a lesser necklace laughing.
Greater.
Greater.
I beg your pardon?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean...
Don't apologize, it's the truth.
Who are you?
Who I am doesn't matter for now, it's a bird that matters. Now kindly, don't panic.
Don't panic when I suddenly hear voices from somebody that I can't see.
Are you speaking with someone?
No, myself. Internal dialogue, you know.
Aloud?
Yes. Haven't you ever?
Emphatically not.
Oh.
So did you see the bird?
The greater necklace laughing
The greater
thrush.
Lesser necklace laughing.
Greater!
thrush.
Who do you think you are?
What did you say?
Forgive me, I didn't mean...
Miss Roy, I'm bound to ask if everything is quite all right.
Yes.
Are you sure? Surely the sighting of a bird
Oh,
can
it's hardly the bird.
Surely the sighting of a bird can hardly account for the Indian Commerce Councillor to exhibit such enthusiasm. Never before have I witnessed bird watching deteriorate into a slanging match where my credentials have been questioned.
I never did that.
Did you not just ask me who I thought I was?
Yes, but I didn't mean you.
Then whom were you speaking with? Baburam, our escort. If I'm right, your interaction with him has been limited to hello, unless you were speaking with yourself again, which I think is highly unlikely.
Forgive me, Mr. Thapa. It's only been 4 days since I came to Kathmandu, and these 4 days, they've already been very long.
No doubt, but you were alert enough to question a sighting.
An error of vision. You see, these are Nepali birds. They'll just take a little getting used to.
I see. Thank you. To illustrate the difference between our points of view on the matter, then, might we take a closer look?
Certainly. Where was it again?
Gone up. The 8th branch right. Now don't react, otherwise you'll be pegged as stark raving mad. You've already been earmarked for insolent behavior.
Oh, there's no need for all that. Baburam, my gun.
No, please stop. You were right. It was clearly a lesser necklace laughing thrush. Clearly.
Don't stop him. We'll settle the matter quite decidedly in our favor.
Whose favor? Certainly not the birds. No, please stop. Stop, Mr. Thapa.
Miss Roy!
How dare you? How dare you?
Dare? What do you... Baburam, take it. Ah, good.
How could you?
Bring it here. To settle a point. Let's see now. Well, you may be right after all, Miss Roy. It appears that the Commerce Councillor excels in far more than matters of bilateral transaction.
Well, of course you're right. Because I am. I nearly named the sorry bird.
Beginner's luck. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
You seem a little overwrought. Perhaps it's time for Baburam to take you back to the Indian Embassy. Another bird-watching session beckons at some point. The score is 1-0 in your favor.
Unlikely, Mr. Thapa. I'm afraid that this is not a game that I care to play.
Miss Roy, diplomacy seldom rushes its answers. But then, that is a lesson that will take far more than a week for you to understand. I bid you welcome to our country. Baburam, please take the councillor back to the Indian Embassy. Oh, and Miss Roy, I wouldn't worry too much about the bird. Neither the greater nor the lesser necklace laughing thrush is endangered.
That's not the point.
Isn't it? Your drive. You will forgive me for not accompanying you back. I think there are a few good hours of birding yet. Good day, Miss Roy. Such a pleasure.
Ki Darun, Miss Roy.
Why, thank you. What are you doing in my drawing room, Mr. Hodgson?
Ah, Mr. Hodgson, is it? I see my identity is a secret no longer.
Well, it might have been if you hadn't proclaimed the fact that you nearly named the greater necklace laughing thrush.
Well,
Except that John Gould named it in London.
I was robbed. I collected the bird. He called it before I did.
Details. At least you named the lesser necklace laughing thrush.
And in the interest of fair play, still declared against it.
Volubly. It is evident that your watchword is not incognito.
Ah, touché, Miss Roy. I see you've done your research quite swiftly.
Though if the former British resident to the court of the Shahs were to make demands on my most private moments, I'm curious as to why he didn't accost me in the middle of my bath.
On account of modesty, Miss Roy, I had no desire to stoke any awkwardness.
And yet you see me in nothing but a bathrobe.
I do not.
Oh?
You've noticed that the back of your chair faces you?
Yes.
I am seated on that chair, staring steadfastly at the gulmohar tree outside your window. It houses a nest of a common babbler that has been parasitized by a pike-crested cuckoo. The cuckoo hatchling is clamoring for attention from the unsuspecting foster parent. Her own offspring will suffer for it. Does the story sound familiar?
I've seen it play out often enough with the coal and the crow. However, I suspect that you are seeking to make an analogy here.
Ah, just the brightness I imagined, Miss Roy. The long and short of it, though, is that with my back facing you, the question of having to avert my gaze does not arise.
Very grateful for your sense of decorum, Mr. Hodgson. Well?
The cuckoo hatchling remains quite intriguing, Miss Roy.
You can turn around now, Mr. Hodgson. I'm decent, if not entirely ready to receive guests. Though when were you ever in that category?
Ah, how fetching you appear, Miss Roy. I'm glad we're dispensed with that formality.
I might point out that those terms were hardly of my choosing.
And I express my regrets for any inconvenience, ma'am.
You are not inconvenient, Mr. Hodgson. If this afternoon has revealed anything, it is that you are just as intriguing as that pied-crested cuckoo hatchling in a babbler's nest on the branch of that gulmohar tree that happens to stare at my window.
Is that an analogy in turn, Miss Roy?
Only so we may trade, Mr. Hodgson. It is my habit.
Very well. We are in Nepal.
That might have been profound, except that I'm already acquainted with that fact. I was posted to Kathmandu a week ago, not secret location XBF5 2001.
Miss Roy, this is hardly the moment for frivolity.
Forgive me, but this revelation was hardly earth-shattering.
I did not mean location. I would ask you instead to consider history.
Why?
It may serve to explain why a bird fell foul of a gun this morning.
What do you mean?
Do you honestly believe that what Mr. Thapa engineered was the result of a fit of pique?
I don't know what to believe. It was all just very distressing. You didn't seem to mind, though. You even encouraged it.
I was neutral. Que sera, sera.
Neutral? You were perfectly happy for that bird to be shot.
To suggest otherwise would have been hypocritical. I had over 10,000 specimens donated to the Natural History Museum in London. Let me assure you that not one of them conveniently gave up the ghost the moment they heard my or my gun-bearer's footsteps.
All right, but you needed to do it. You were trying to perform the study of natural history for what was in many ways the first time in Nepal. What great service did Mr. Thapa provide in killing a bird whose identity holds the key to nothing more than a semantic difference? Honestly, a field guide could have been quite sufficient.
You are very affected by the shooting. He knew you would be.
To show up a moment of my weakness? Why? No, wait. Let me guess. Because I'm a woman?
Nothing quite so infantile. I would hardly suggest that such revulsion is a result of one's sex.
It was another statement then.
Yes.
A show of strength?
Of defiance.
Why?
You are the trade representative of your country. You're also very young, only...
32.
Thank you. A young woman occupies a position that pushed through an embargo on this country in less than 15 years ago, in a very obvious flexing of muscle.
Times have changed.
But memories have not.
A bullet won't make a difference, though. If it is an analogy you are seeking to make, it will fall smack, face down, in front of the first flicker of response from the Rajputana rifles.
What a mature response.
A pragmatic one. You seek to trade from positions of strength. You didn't desist from doing the same, did you?
Perhaps. What do you think?
It was necessary.
It was more than that. What?
Nature. Red in tooth and claw. Why add to it?
You are a romantic. Mr. Darwin would have had little use for you.
As I can see it, you would have had very little use for Mr. Darwin.
Don't be taught. My interest became more focused, that's all.
Really? Perhaps a little fit of pique could be addressed elsewhere just as well?
If you are referring to my recall...
You've never forgotten it.
Why should I?
Why should you indeed? the brightest star of the British firmament in Nepal, had just been relieved of the residency for insubordination. Lord Ellenborough had...
Did not understand.
The Governor-General did not understand a man who went beyond his mandate.
The Governor-General did not understand what it took to further British interests in Nepal. Damn! Do you know where that comes from?
No.
Have you heard it before?
Yes, countless times. I asked one of the attachés in the embassy, but he didn't seem to know.
He wouldn't. That's a Crown Prince Dipendra trying out a new rifle.
Oh?
Prince Dipendra loves his rifles. He shoots birds too, I'll have you know.
You make it sound like it's a virtue.
Well,
now that we're acquainted, do you like me, Mr. Hodgson?
I beg your pardon?
I said, do you like me?
I heard you. I merely failed to understand what possible bearing...
Oh, tremendous bearing, Mr. Hodgson.
I'm afraid I'm of very little assistance in matters of self-esteem.
I can assure you that that's an area on which I lack very little.
Oh, in that case...
Come on, Mr. Hodgson, it was a simple question.
But I hardly know you.
That didn't stop you from breaking in and entering...
Nothing was broken.
It was a manner of speech. You see, I don't typically encounter gliders through walls.
Doors, actually.
Very funny. Simply put, what's the motive?
All in good time, Miss Roy.
Suddenly cagey, are we?
Regarding your question...
Motive?
No, liking you.
Oh, that. Well?
Certainly.
You don't sound very convinced.
Don't I? I'll try harder next time.
Will now be as good as any?
You are perfectly charming.
Why, thank you, Mr. Hodgson. That was so sweet.
Please don't mention it.
Oh, but I must. It was awfully nice of you to say that, Brian. Mr. Hodgson. Might I call you Brian?
Certainly, Miss Roy.
Oh, come. One intimacy deserves another. If you're Brian, then I'm Manjushree.
Ah, symmetrical terms, is it?
Absolutely.
Without the slightest possibility of capacious movement.
What?
Or as you might term it, wiggle room.
Oh, couldn't you have said so in the first place?
Simply because I understand contemporary speak, and for that matter double speak, does not mean I'm obliged to have to resort to it as a matter of choice.
Oh, but you do. All the time, in fact.
Oh?
You even hurled a four-letter word in anger recently.
So I did. D-A-M-N. It was a perfectly acceptable imprecation even in 1842. Besides, I wasn't angry, I was merely cross.
No way. You were pissed.
Please suit yourself. Whatever floats your boat.
There. Thank you. You just proved here and now that you can do it all over again.
This is not a test. There was never any doubt that if, push came to shove, I would say okoro and move on with the times. Hell, I even read them.
The Times?
Yes, online.
Very okoro. And might I point out, you just employed another four-letter word.
Thank you. Hell existed in 1842 as well.
Very funny, Mr. Hodgson. Now returning to motive. Mr. Hodgson, motive? Brian?
A perfect icebreaker, Miss Roy. You really are quite delightful.
No, wait, come back.
It's
What do you think?
It's a little overwhelming.
A little? Turn the corner on your face. Cola comes to cannabis. Just another day in the park. Get the switch and turn on the dark for Tamil.
A little electricity goes
A long way.
and the adrenaline flows.
All day.
Come and sort of beat, come and set your feet, come and lead to pray, come and to stay, hey, 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 with Tamil.
Let's walk that way.
Let's go out the door. Hurry now on your feet. Get to grips with the tips you'll find. Find a freak street.
Sure you want to be here?
It's kind of cool.
Backpacking hostels, joint smacking gospels. This is your idea of cool. Counselor, remember the rules.
Meaning?
Miss Pretty, don't be a fool.
All right, party people.
Sorry to rain on your parade. You'll thank me yet.
All right, fine then. Where to?
La Zimpet, to a place you just might like.
Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more. What do you say? Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more. Oh woman, you treat me so mean. You're the meanest old woman that I've ever seen. And I guess if you said so, gotta pack up my things and go. That's right, hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more. One more time, hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more.
I'm merely a conduit. A drink?
A Manhattan.
Good call. I'll be back. Don't get into trouble.
Moi?
Yes, Miss Roy. Toi.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the light goes around. You know the drill. Where it ends, you begin, whoever you will be. What a brave woman! Step right up, ma'am.
Me? No.
Regulations, you're a newbie?
Yes, I mean, I can't... No.
Why not?
Mr. Thapa.
Miss Roy.
Good evening.
Good evening. They are waiting.
I'm afraid it's quite out of question.
I'm afraid it's nothing but the question. You cannot do otherwise. It would insult precedent.
But I can't be held account for that. I didn't know.
Ah, then you are slipping, most esteemed Commerce Councillor. I would have thought that you'd have done your research on the establishment before entering it.
I mean,
Here's your drink. Oh, I didn't realize.
This is Mr. Thapa.
Miss Danekar and I are acquainted. Is that a Manhattan? In this place, I'd have recommended something more a specialty of the bartender. Sex on the beach, perhaps? But then, there are no shores in Kathmandu.
Neither is Manhattan for that matter.
The score is 1-0 in your favor, Miss Roy.
Was it? I wasn't really keeping count anyway.
Not even when the game changes.
The game?
Your song, Miss Roy.
Very well, Mr. Thapa. Kalpana, hold my drink.
What are you doing, Manjushree?
It's a matter of honor.
I told you not to get into trouble.
For a song? Could you play Mac tonight? Oh, the shock has curly teeth, dear, and he shows them pearly white. Just a jackknife has old McHeath, dear, and he keeps it out of sight. You know when that shock bites with his teeth, dear, scarlet billows start to spread. Fancy gloves, oh, where's McHeath there? So there's never a trace of red. Now on that sidewalk, on a Sunday morning, lies a body who's in life. Someone sneaking round that corner. Now tell me, could it be Mac the Knife? Your turn.
I believe is the tally, Miss Roy. Oh, there is one final tradition.
Invented a moment ago?
Oh, no. Since this club was merely an idea in the mind of God.
God ordained a jazz bar?
Yes, and that is why we believe in God.
What is this final tradition, Mr. Thapa?
You will join me.
Just me?
No, everybody.
I'll hold your drink.
रेशम फिरी उडेर जाऊ कि ढाडमा भञ्ज्याङ रेशम फिरी रेशम फिरी रेशम फिरी उडेर जाऊ कि ढाडमा भञ्ज्याङ रेशम फिरी एक नाले बन्दुक दुई नाले बन्दुक मृगलाई ताकेको मृग मिलाई ताकेका होइन मायालाई ताकेको रेशम फिरी रेशम फिरी उडेर जाऊ कि ढाडमा भञ्ज्याङ रेशम फिरी
So,
trouble? Well? The Big Band Lounge.
are you surprised?
Frankly, yes. Why? Aren't you?
No, I've had her watched for a while.
And you never breathed a word all this time.
Well, not that much time actually.
Still, it's remarkable how close you play your cards to your chest.
Demands of portfolio, my friend. You tax, I watch.
Watch how I tax.
If the need arises, so far there have been more immediate preoccupations. So please, breathe more easily.
So, from your sources, it is certain that she met Prachanda then?
Well, not in so many words. She met someone acquainted with him who in and of herself is not necessarily Maoist. But the conversation lasted for at least half an hour. We are now given to understand that it is not the first time.
If the Queen gets wind of this...
She will have to go.
Oh, try convincing the Indian government.
The Indian government won't need convincing anymore. It isn't any more partial to the Maoists than we are.
Why Prachanda then? I don't understand.
Stranger things have happened than embassy officials going rogue. That is, if she is.
You think the Indians are playing a deeper game?
It is possible.
You aren't suggesting a proxy war?
Nah, that is Pakistan's department. With India, and from what I hear, the traffic is not entirely one way.
Just so long as they keep us out of it. Can we persuade them to do so?
No choice but to try. We'll need to deploy him again. After all, quite by happenstance, he was there.
He?
Hariraj.
Excuse me, madam. Madam, I'm afraid we have to pack the remainder of your lunch.
Whatever for?
We have just received word that an important party is coming this way.
I don't see any of the other tables being approached the same way.
Oh, madam, we'll tell them.
Will you?
Madam does not want me to get into trouble.
And why does madam not want you to get into trouble when we are the ones who are being troubled here?
Madam, please.
Is there something the matter, madam? It's all right, Kalpana. We should have just gone somewhere else.
Here was just fine. What is the matter, madam?
It's a problem of some delicacy, madam. Nothing much. It's just the party concerned normally uses this corner table. We can move you to a room inside.
No.
Oh, there's no need for all that, Miss Rubina. We have nothing to hide from our Indian friends.
So that's what this was all about?
Obviously.
Well, it seems like Kathmandu must be a very small place, Mr. Thapa, for us to enjoy quite so high a rate of encounter.
Even Rome has central streets, Miss Roy. And though not all roads lead to it, why shouldn't Kathmandu?
Your Highness?
Your Highness?
That recognizable.
Unmistakable.
Your photographs do you justice, Your Highness.
Unlike George IV, I do not try and hide my girth. But does that mean it should take 200 years before we are honest about ourselves?
I meant Your Highness's face.
Surely Dippy can take a joke, even at his own expense.
Miss Devyani Rana.
A pleasure, Miss Rana. We
know who you are.
I see.
We do hope that such knowledge will not be held against us.
Hardly, madam. Miss Roy, I understand.
I'm honored, Your Highness.
Your reputation precedes you. I believe you elevated the standard of music in the big band lounge.
Oh, Your Highness was aware?
But of course, our city welcomes, invites even, every moment of culture we can receive. Now will you grace us with a song, Miss Roy?
In the big band lounge, perhaps, Your Highness?
The accompaniment here is lacking, Miss Roy. Shall we arrange for it?
Oh, but the ambience, Miss Rana.
Quite right. Music for lounges and pizzas for pizzerias. Now my lovely companion will have her customary spaghetti carbonara, while I will opt for the capriccioso with extra cheese, ham, salami,
And no olives.
and no olives.
Excellent choice, sir.
However, we shall leave one key element to your sorted vice, if we may.
Sure, Your Highness.
Deep dish or thin crust? What would you prefer?
Thin crust, Your Highness. Still waters are all very well, but it's good to keep things on the level.
It seems they teach wisdom in schools of finance, Miss Roy.
Pragmatism at any rate, Miss Rana, but thank you.
Thin crust it is, and thank you. We will meet. You must excuse us in
I
the
will.
big band lounge in the near future, I trust.
I shall depend upon it, Your Highness.
It was interesting.
I would have thought.
We should ask for the waiter. Waiter, please pack the lunch.
Yes, ma'am. Going so soon?
A working meal.
I was hoping to be able to detain you for a moment.
You mean Miss Roy?
I mean both of you.
So your visit here...
Oh, it's purely coincidental. His Highness has to eat, and I am his aide-de-camp.
Ah.
In an acting capacity. But how fortuitous this meeting is.
Well, I do have an engagement.
No doubt. And might I presume to ask where it is?
Mr. Thapa.
Not at all. Dental appointment.
And the esteemed practitioner may be found at?
Mr. Thapa, with all due respect, this is none of your business.
Yes. Yes, of course.
If you do have any questions, I am at your service.
Thank you. I don't think His Highness will miss us in this place. Perhaps a short walk around the Garden of Dreams by Kesar Mahal. It's just around the corner. I hope that your engagement with your molars, if those will be pleasant, Miss Danekar.
Canines, actually, Mr. Thapa.
Canines. We are lucky then that the legend of Count Vlad remains in Transylvania, are we not?
Well, Nepal has no need of it. Tigers prowl here.
So they do, Miss Danekar. Good day.
The Garden of Dreams, Mr. Thapa?
Precisely. Recognize her?
Who?
From the Big Band Lounge.
What? How?
You do not understand.
No.
That might require some believing. No action will be taken yet. They will be followed, of course. But that walk?
Yours to command, Mr. Thapa.
All right, then, Mr. O'Halloran. You get a step on it then, won't you?
A step on what, sir?
On what? On arrangements for tea, lad. Don't you remember?
Nice. You mean old Tapa stopping in?
Tapa? He isn't any Tapa. He's Beamson Tapa, Crown Regent, time and time again for the past 35 years. And I'll trouble you to remember it.
Yes, sir.
Arrangements for tea too. Now get a move on.
Is he riding then?
His Highness?
No, Mr. Hodgson, sir.
Oh, they both are. It's their normal constitutional.
On Red Prince and Black Prince then?
Never otherwise. Now get a move on. The servants are waiting.
At once, sir. Laugh and be all the time of day and down a dram of glee. For when the dog's away a hard work, you've no yearning for the open. A cold swirl from your home and through the gloaming. You wait for the touch of a caring hand and you feel it right beside. And the blast reminds you it's the wind in a mocking, heartless jibe. You draw yourself together and the heat you smoke is yours. The sun beats down on Kathmandu in 1834. But even laugh and be bright and blithe, but Mr. Hodgson brave is he. And unbeguiled in the blight and in the storm, where no creature dares to rustle, you behold his poised form in the flesh and rippling muscle, set and steady in the saddle, firm on Black Prince in the sleet, strong and staring through the darkness, tall, defiant and complete. And he ride, and he ride, and he ride out the storm. Red Prince, Black Prince, prancing eager to the rain and to the pride of the charge that halts and guides them and cajoles them forth to ride. And together they are racing beams in Tapa and his friend, the resident of Britain, who'll be first to reach the end. And they'll ride, and they'll ride, and they'll ride, and they'll ride.
Mr. O'Halloran,
At once, sir.
The forests of Masang must be beautiful.
They are beyond compare.
Perhaps an expedition might be supplied?
Unfortunately, His Highness would not be welcoming of such a venture.
Your Excellency could be persuasive.
You are aware of the conditions, Mr. Hodgson. The resident may not leave the Kathmandu Valley during his time here in Nepal. Then again, you are not suffering for any want. The trappers bring you a number of specimens that you name. Birds, animals, snakes. Your time is always occupied here, and especially, you are expected to be within reach of His Highness' desires.
But His Highness has hardly required me in the recent past. Or Her Highness, either of them.
It could happen tomorrow.
It is an excuse to keep me here.
It's a reality. How doleful would the palace be without the ever-present wit of our accomplished guest?
Balderdash.
Please.
Your Excellency, I'm grateful for all that you've done to make my stay in Kathmandu comfortable. The bungalow that you so kindly made available in Kakkani has been of incalculable assistance to my endeavors there.
Oh, think nothing of it.
But I must, and this is why I must be allowed to see more, to report more on the extraordinary natural gifts that are Nepal's, for the benefit of His Highness and His subjects.
If I may be so bold, for your His Highness or mine?
If Your Excellency is suggesting
No, nothing of the sort. You have been far too good a friend both to me and my country for me to harbor even the slightest suspicions of your motives. But a certain circumspection is necessary as a matter of procedure. Who is to say that either of our successors would be quite so observant of our finer virtues? We hope, but we can never be certain, no?
No.
I can only imagine how difficult it must be. But we are the best of friends in a situation that we in Nepal did not initially choose.
Nepal's choices.
Listen to me. We may differ on the circumstances that resulted in your being amongst us, in the capacity that you are. There may even be resentment towards your noble country. But for you, Mr. Hodgson, there is only affection. Consequently, you have latitude. Within reasonable limits, of course.
Including a moratorium on our ladies.
But you are not suffering on that count, Mr. Hodgson. Now you must excuse me. Please give my regards to the Begum and Master Henry.
Thank you, Your Excellency.
There she washed and made a living and caught the eye of the Englishman.
Top of the morning to you, Mr. Hodgson.
And to you, Mr. O'Halloran. Though you don't appear to be enjoying it.
Because of this, sir.
What's this? Who sent this?
We didn't know, sir. It was weighted with a stone and thrown over the compound walls.
And meant for me.
No, sir. It was addressed to the Begum.
Does she know?
Yes, sir. I took it to her right away.
Damn, I need to go in at once.
But no, sir. I cannot. It might not be best.
There's no need. We all know what's written in there.
My dear, I am so sorry.
And it says one word.
Wish it were another.
Only one word.
Traitor.
Yes, traitor.
I tried to save you.
From knowledge?
Of what they say there.
Beyond the great gates.
Of this complex.
Just tell me why.
Most honored Begum.
Don't stop him.
I forbid it.
I'm not an infant.
You do not need this.
I'm the mother of your bastard.
You better leave.
Don't go.
What do you want to know?
And one evening on the Bagmati, so many days ago, a white man on a dark horse stopped beside me on the road. He caught me at my washing and looked beyond my shame. There was no scorn and no contempt, just a simple "What's your name?"
And I will protect you now as then.
That isn't in question.
And if I could take this all away,
You can't change impressions.
I have known the greatest joy in all the time I've lived. The languages, the birds, the books are pale in the face of this. You put aside your washing and you came back home to me. Despite the strong misgivings of your friends and family.
And it's to them that I am lost, disgraced and forsaken, condemned to the love that time forgot, despairing and shaken.
Whenever you reached out to them, you met a harsh rebuff. Tell me, isn't it time to recognize enough's enough?
I would only ask you this, that when you're gone away, will England have a place for me, or am I doomed to stay?
The place where we have so badly faltered.
Why don't you answer?
Have I allowed myself to be ineffably altered?
What can he answer?
And all the stars all crossed above the world we have made here. This is our hand that fits the glove of peril and fear, of peril and fear, of peril and fear. Long live Rookham.
Long live Nepal.
Maoist.
Long live Nepal.
Long live Prachanda. Jai Jai Prachanda. Jai Jai Prachanda.
The winter days are
sustain a nation, time to inspire a generation, time to create Nepal again.
We believe Prachanda's here. Apprehend him while he's still in the region. Catch him, make preparations for his fall. For too long he's dodged us, taunted, hounded, hurt us. This time don't let him get away, get away. Out of time to destroy these wayward vermin. Muster the fight that will determine how we acquit ourselves as men.
Yes, we're running out of time to oppose this grand illusion. Stop all this toxic insurrection. Time to rebuild Nepal again.
Take all the place where we have so badly faltered.
What would you answer?
Have I allowed myself to be ineffably altered? What can he answer? And all the stars are crossed above the world we have made here. Is this our hand that fits the glove of peril and fear? Of peril and fear, of peril and fear.
Oh, hail the power of Jesus' name. Let angels prostrate fall. Let angels prostrate fall. Bring forth the royal diadem and crown him Lord of all. fall, we at his feet may fall. We'll join the everlasting song and crown him, crown him, crown him, and crown him Lord of all.
No sign of Black Prince then?
Probably detained in Patan, Mr. Hodgson is.
Ah, the monk, I'll reckon.
Is it monkery then, sir?
Nay, the right regular one. Pandit Amritananda. Helped Captain Knox in the wee years of this here 19th century. Kept the faith, translated scores of texts, Hindu and Buddhist, for Mr. Hodgson. You know, the Sanskrit kind, which Mr. Hodgson sent to Calcutta and London. Well, they weren't having much of it, so he found another chappie called Burnoff in Paris. Lord love me, he was all crinkly and excited about the material. Still is. I don't know how... Hey, there's another griffin vulture.
So it doesn't do too badly for birds then, sir.
Ah, you're right about that there, laddie. And Mr. Hodgson, he's made a name for himself on them. Glad to be of assistance to him myself.
That you are, sir.
Mr. O'Halloran, I look at the mountains, think of the highlands and the old ditties and songs.
Aye, out on the causeway too.
Ah, the giant. Hey, I hear tell you spin a dizzying tune then.
From time to time, sir. Not fit for the likes of inside of a nave, though.
They don't miss you there.
Nor you, sir, seeing as you're a
Presbyterian. Well, the John Knox lot?
No relation of that Captain Knox he mentioned.
Nah. He was too busy to be looking at Buddhist scripts then.
Probably didn't even know what a Buddhist is, eh, sir?
In Edinburgh? Nah. You have that song then?
Aye. Will you join me?
I know you Irish sing it differently.
You'll get it, sir. The Celts in us both.
All right, let's hear it then.
There's a stir in the snow, picking on the past below, and I wonder, where will it blow? And the gusts in the trees, picking up from a little breeze, a current that's ready to flow. And there's you and I, island man with a lullaby, given to feed that room, and that gust is a sigh, sobbing to a clouded sky, hearkening to dreams of home.
Wow, O'Halloran, that's a beautiful tune you've got there.
Could do with another Celt, sir.
All right, let's give that a shot then.
To whom?
To home.
There's a stir in the snow, picking on the past below, and I wonder, where will it blow? And the gusts in the trees, picking up from a little breeze, a current that's ready to flow. And there's you and I, a man with a lullaby, given to feed that roam, and the gust is a sigh, sobbing to a clouded sky, hearkening to dreams of home.
To what honorable circumstance we owe a visit from the Begum?
To what honorable circumstances the Begum owed us spurning in the first place?
The Begum has the better of your servant.
The Begum stayed a servant because you thought it better that she did.
You do me a disservice.
You know what they say in the marketplace.
Which one? There are so many.
The ones that count, closest to the residency.
I cannot help the Begum there. I have but limited authority, and that is restricted to this very small part of Patan. Not even the whole town, far less Kathmandu.
Please, esteemed Pandit, you know exactly what I mean.
I know what?
Well, you know whom?
You mean?
Me.
I fail to understand.
You saw me, you knew me, you recommended me.
I left you at your washing.
You left a word at the residency.
You knew.
Recently.
It was a stray thought, nothing beside.
It impelled a ride.
Good thing you might say.
You saw me first, you left a taint.
I never touched you.
You didn't need to.
Why hid rumor?
Because it isn't just humor, it hurts.
I wish I could help. I just don't see how.
A simple word.
A word I shared. You profited.
By whose assessment?
Look around.
Again, I ask, by whose assessment was I made? Rejected, hated, lost, afraid.
I say again, I never touched you.
Yes, you did. You touched me as you watched me. Caressed me with your eyes. The holy man who realized his feet of clay were ever squelching through the mud of disrepair, ever present, ever there.
You reproach me without cause.
The marketplace declares you had me.
If it does, the fault's beyond me.
Easily said in a monastery.
Why bring this up right now?
It is because I need you now. In all this time, he's never turned against me. Instead, he has protected me, been my shield, my guide. Now there is mention that his time may soon be waning. Here within the only place I've ever known as home. If he has gone, how can there be a reason to seek within a meaning for what I am or who? What of his children conceived in need and season?
Left to face the awful truth, they are half-breeds through and through.
लगाउँदा मेरो शरीरमा सबै
5,000 बढीले आवेदन दर्ता गरे।
यहाँ तपाईको कुनै शिकार फिकार आएको
Why the enemy?
Because she hates the Indians. The top Ross, anyway.
I'm small fry.
Please, give yourself credit. After all that's happened today...
You were there?
I was aware.
Are you stalking me, Mr. Hodgson?
Not necessary. When I need to be present, I am.
Well, now that you're all caught up, what happens next?
Miss Roy, might I remind you, I'm a ghost, not a prophet.
I could do with a crystal ball.
I could make subtle inquiries.
How? Nobody else can hear you.
I'm not the only ghost in town. You just can't hear the others.
Ah, there is that angle as well. So you'll ask them? Hold on. Just what I needed, Mr. Thapa.
Should I delay my investigation?
Hold on. Yes, Mr. Thapa.
Might it be inconvenient for me to call on you, Miss Roy?
When do you have in mind?
Immediately.
Do you know where I am?
At your home.
Are you having me watched?
A lamentable precaution, Miss Roy, given circumstances. However, I assure you, your privacy has not been compromised in the slightest.
That is a paradox, Mr. Thapa. If you know where I am, how is my privacy not being compromised?
In that we're not watching you emerge from the bath, unlike Mr. Hodgson.
How did
or
you...
whomever you might imagine Mr. Hodgson is. After all, even Saint Joan of Arc heard voices.
You'd better come over.
I shall be there presently. Thank you.
Well...
Yes, I was afraid that might happen.
You could have told me where the bug was. Or bugs.
That would offend my sense of fair play. You did triumphantly display an earlier iteration to Miss Dhanikar. Does she know about me, by the way?
As a historical figure, yes. I have asked about you, but in a general sense. And she did some digging up.
Not literally, I trust. I am buried in Gloucestershire. And as far as I can tell, she has not made a trip to England after your arrival here.
Right. Oh, if only she would pick up my calls.
She is at the dentist, is she not?
Ostensibly.
Have you checked?
Mr. Thapa must have. He's here. What on earth is going on? Where have you been?
The dentist? Did you call?
Countless times.
My phone was switched off. Wait, huh? Ah, so you did. Sorry.
Sorry? Do you know that Mr. Hariraj Thapa is about to come over? And if he finds you here, not even diplomatic immunity can save you from being incarcerated on charges of spying.
Spying on whom?
Spying for whom is more like it. What is this about you and the Maoists?
I don't know what you're talking about. If you don't believe me, just call my dentist.
Mr. Thapa probably already has. He said he would apprise me once he finds out. Oh, and by the way, this house is bugged. So if you have anything particularly private to say, I suggest you hold the thought.
But I thought you...
I thought so too, but... He's here.
Should I leave?
Oh, it doesn't matter. They already know you're here. You might as well sit down, next to Mr. Hodgson.
Who? Where?
Wherever you'd like. The physicist James Joule declared that matter had both impenetrability and extension. That is to say, depending upon perspective, I may or may not matter, but I most certainly am not matter.
God give me grace.
Manjushree.
Since when do you believe in him?
Force of habit. High school in Loreto Convent in Darjeeling.
Ah, yes, Darjeeling.
our common point of domicile before Kathmandu, if temporarily separated in both cases. Did you like my home, Grindstone?
It wasn't the old boys' high school, St. Paul's. Hardly knew it. By the way, it's now a rectory.
That's what comes of selling an estate to the church.
Manjushree, whom are you talking to?
I told you. It doesn't matter. Just sit anywhere. If you don't trust the sofa, take the floor.
Miss Roy.
Mr. Thapa, please, come in.
Miss Danekar. How go the teeth?
Reduced, but present, Mr. Thapa.
Canines, as I recall. A fondness for meat, perhaps?
Oh no, I'm vegetarian. My choice of pizza featured beets, carrots and radish.
How puzzling. I didn't know roots need canines.
Perhaps not, but canines need roots.
Sage, Miss Danekar. Do you like it?
As much as parsley, rosemary and thyme, Mr. Thapa.
She's a smart one.
This operation must have been an involved affair, lasting several hours.
Well, yes, it was exacting.
And extracting?
No, the core of the teeth remains, to be capped in time.
For all of your recent oral afflictions, you seem none the worse for conversation.
Well, dentistry has come a long way since the Dark Ages, Mr. Thapa.
Yes, and since the 20th century, though we have just about left it. Now, were you really in the dentist's chair all this while, Miss Danekar?
What exactly are you implying, sir?
You were being followed, Kalpana, along with that jazz singer. You never told me that you knew her.
You never asked. And why shouldn't I know her? I've been going to the Big Band Lounge for ages. We just happened to run into each other on street after I left Fire and Ice.
Going to the Big Band Lounge for ages. So you've known her that long then?
From a point of view of acquaintanceship, yes.
And then you knew that she was sympathetic towards the Maoists?
I do not discuss political affiliations with all and sundry as a rule, Mr. Thapa.
Oh, so she did not know that you work at the embassy?
She does. I gave her my card the first time we met.
Out of protocol? Politeness? Did she vouchsafe one in turn?
She had none to offer.
Mr. Thapa, if I might remind you, this is my house, not an interrogation cell.
A better thing that, Miss Roy. Would you rather it were the latter?
I do have diplomatic immunity too, Mr. Thapa.
And there have been diplomatic incidents in the past. Are you quite sure you want to take that path, Miss Danekar?
Why don't you just call my dentist?
I did.
And?
He confirmed your story.
And your spy?
Oh, he watched your jazz singer friend, Miss Neera Pandey, head back towards Thamel as you turned towards Ghantaghar, where your dentist's office is, and you did not meet again afterwards.
So why this inquisition?
As a prelude to an invitation.
What?
This is the most peculiar sequence I've heard and encountered many.
I beg your pardon. Is this a variation on "Will you step into my parlor?" said the spider to the fly?
Hardly, Miss Roy. But if it were, wouldn't Kathmandu already be the parlor?
Delhi might not spare to call in flies too, Mr. Thapa.
Perhaps not, but you have not reported the matter to the embassy yet. Is that not strange?
Are you privy to every action of mine or lack of it?
You didn't?
No.
Ah, loyalty in the most unexpected places. Miss Danekar, you should be touched.
Did you find your Maoists, Mr. Thapa?
Regrettably not. Miss Pandey picked up a few thankas. Apparently a few Belgians that she'd regaled at the Big Band Lounge had bought a consignment from her but forgotten to pick it up. She was kind enough to follow up on the matter and then she returned to the club immediately afterwards.
I see. Why are you being so forthright?
Because despite all our suspicions, Miss Roy, you are clearly not the mole in the Indian embassy. I don't even think you know who it is, your innate suspicions notwithstanding. Nor you, Miss Danekar, so it seems.
Ask him about the bugs then.
Thank you. Mr. Hodgson would like to know about the bugs.
Mr. Hodgson probably already knows where all these bugs are.
Oh, he does, but thinks that to divulge their location would fall foul of fair play.
Englishman's honor. Credit must be given where credit is due. Where might Mr. Hodgson be?
Going by his voice, right next to you.
Oh.
What was that about lack of matter, Mr. Hodgson?
Oh, just phantom limbs. Memories, I imagine. Ramachandran effect.
all elucidated a century after you died.
I keep up, I told you. You are hearing voices.
I'm not delusional.
Does your embassy know this?
Was my identification right of the bird?
Well, yes.
Because he nearly named it. There's no other way I could have known.
What bird?
The bird that Mr. Thapa killed, the greater necklace laughing thrush.
You do not forget, Miss Roy.
No.
Are you quite sure you're made for this profession?
Time will tell.
Yes, before I leave,
Yes?
Princess Shruti would like to invite both of you to the Garden of Dreams. She has heard of your singing excursion and was immediately very sorry to have missed being present.
The Crown Prince said the same thing too. Has our moment of innocent adventure turned into a royal preoccupation?
Oh, no. Think of it more as a rapprochement. After an untoward incident, a moment perhaps to make up. Having heard of your wonderful voice, she would like to hear for herself. And the Crown Prince will be in attendance too, I understand.
Perhaps I shall excuse myself. I am no Shwantas.
You shall be part of the honored audience.
Will you sing too?
Oh, no. I have dental afflictions too. It hurts to let a tune between my teeth.
I see. Perhaps it would not be amiss to have a word with Kalpana's dentist.
If she recommends him. But right now I have an appointment with colleagues to watch Marseille play Juventus.
Really? What tournament?
Oh, old match, rerun. It was a friendly.
Who won?
It was a draw.
Must have been quite an interesting match for you to return to it.
Yes, it keeps you on your toes. Savor tomorrow's victories in the abstract.
Which reminds me, for when's the invitation?
Oh, pardon the oversight. 4 p.m. tomorrow. Yes.
It's Captain Madhvar Thapa, sir, and his Lordship Bhimsen Thapa's wife, Lady Bhimsen.
Please show them in.
Well, what will you do?
What can I do? The former Prime Minister stands implicated in the attempted assassination of the senior Queen. For goodness sake, the King's youngest son died. I cannot intervene.
You just did. You chose the other side.
That is a matter of expediency. You counselled it too.
But who is to say the Pandits would be quite so vindictive?
They have just cause. The Prime Minister was responsible for 93 deaths 33 years ago, including that of the present Mukhtiar's father.
Fair is fair and foul is foul, eh?
I do not need a recounting of the Scottish play right now, especially not by a Scotsman.
Be that as it may, the case is illustrative.
How? Bhimsen Thapa was on a Thane of Glamis, then Cawdor, then the King of Scotland after murdering the equivalent of Duncan?
No, he was worse. He ran Nepal with none of the trappings of those that ruled in fear of him. He pays the price, but it is a terrible one.
Your Excellencies. Captain Thapa, Madam, would you please sit down?
I cannot. So the Pandits have told my husband's nephew. They have...
Yes, Captain Thapa.
Current administration that you support, sir, has deemed it fit to inform my uncle who is in prison that my aunt, his wife, was paraded naked down the streets of Kathmandu. They have since informed us.
How could they?
Will you, sir, exercise your influence to reassure my uncle that no such incident has taken place?
Have you not been able to?
His Majesty refuses to entertain us, sir. You are our only recourse.
Unlike your assertion, sir, I do not support the current administration. I am equidistant from all administrations given my position as British resident. As such, I cannot intervene. It would amount to interference.
But it is a question of life and death. You know how much my uncle values honor.
Of what your uncle is accused is treason. I have no reason to jeopardize the interests of the British nation in a matter that really concerns rival factions in a Nepali court.
For heaven's sake, man! The person so accused was your friend! Have you no conscience?
You forget yourself, sir!
I apologize, Colonel Campbell, but I'm not the only person in this room who is forgetful.
Brian, Henry wanted to.
Please convince them to do as we ask.
Ask what?
Tama! Don't!
It is impossible.
What is impossible?
If you were dishonored, what would your husband do?
If I had a husband, he'd defend my honor.
Nehranisa.
But what if he heard that you were dishonored, but were restrained forcibly from making such a defense?
Then I do not know how he could stand to stay alive.
Which is why I beg you, please ask yours to save mine.
I would. If I had a husband.
Nehranisa.
We must go.
Then we are both lost.
We must go, Tama. There's no solace to be found here.
If there's anything I can do.
If wishes were horses.
Your husband would ride again.
But he will not. He will not.
Well, that was a pretty pickle.
What did you mean?
You know the answer to that.
You know I cannot intervene.
I do not know what can or cannot be done, but you ultimately make your choices and you live by them.
Are you condemning me too?
No, I'm questioning myself. And to think of it, counsel can be a deceiver at times.
Second thoughts.
I hear they might send me to Darjeeling sometime soon. It does seem like a promising prospect as superintendent. I might try your experiments with tea there. Might go well with the soul.
After this.
After this.
And I am to be left alone to my folly.
Follies or none, you will have a home in Darjeeling as long as I am there.
In the face of failure?
In the name of friendship, Brian.
Do I deserve that?
That is not for me to say. But deserving and getting, aye. They're often two different things.
Forgive the intrusion, sir. Sir?
Yes, lad.
Tell us, lad.
Word in from the palace, sir. It's Beams and Tapa.
Is it bad?
Slit his own throat in prison, sir.
Have you seen the revenue minister?
He'll be coming shortly, sir.
There you go. You're late.
Sorry. So, nothing?
Nothing.
But we had it on such good authority.
Hariraj sent the forces on a tip and...
They found nothing.
Precisely.
What about the woman?
Clueless.
Really?
I mean, she spends her private moments watching the television, listening to Chandni Shah songs, and responding to voices that she hears.
Really? Who?
Brian Houghton Hodgson.
Who?
The British resident. But that was over a century and a half ago. He was relieved by Lord Ellenborough in the early 1840s and effectively banished from Kathmandu.
And left the subcontinent in 1858 from Darjeeling and died in England in 1894. Well remembered, Prakash.
Yes. Why is this important now?
Because he seems to be her consultant. She carries on conversations with him.
Which no one else can hear.
No. But now that she's aware that the house is still bugged, she simply incorporates anyone that visits into her delusional chatter.
Surely as listeners, of course.
Well, occasionally they ask questions like, to whom are you speaking? Well, that one question anyway. It is becoming predictable.
How disappointing. You know, for all their sense of self, I had credited the Bengalis with more intelligence.
Well, not so fast on condemnation. Imagination too, of which she possesses more than her fair share.
Well, there is the angle of a Rajasthani descent.
Does that mean you think less of the Rajasthanis, Prakar? Considering that His Majesty claims descent from one of its clans, you may be skating on thin ice.
I'm sorry, sir.
Well, purely as a matter of conjecture, it can be argued that His Majesty's family was saved from itself by a succession of prime ministers.
Also belonging to a single family that answered to the name of Rana, which rather begs the question of descent, again from the same region. Not to mention a considerable degree of intermarriage with the royal family. Her Majesty is a Rana. What might we infer from this line of reasoning? Prakash?
No, that the region is no respecter of genetics, sir?
Well done, Prakash. However, if we are to believe a tradition, genetics may well condemn itself to a region.
What do you mean?
If I understand correctly, I think Sir alludes to the curse of Gorakhnath?
Ah, that. When His Majesty Prithvi Narayan Shah threw back the curd that the sage had vomited, returned to him and asked him to drink it.
And the sage damned his dynasty to come such that it would occupy the throne for no more than 10 generations.
And it takes no reminding
that this is the 10th.
And that's why the Maoists
must be stopped. And that is why Hariraj
must succeed. The Commerce Councillor
is irrelevant.
What about his subordinate?
Now that is a different matter. We shall see.
तिनलाई हाँसेर बिदा मात्र दे सकेथे आँसु झरिसकेछन् म तिनलाई पुस्न थाले म तिनलाई पुस्न थाले तिमीलाई छोडी गइसके
I hope you don't mind keeping the festivities to the outside, Miss Roy and Miss Thanekar. But it's just so lovely outside that it would be a shame to miss out on the opportunity.
Oh, of course not, Your Highness. Please just call me Manjushree.
And me Kalpana, Your Highness.
Excellent, and I am just Shruti. Fine.
Oh, no, Your Highness, we
Tosh, we're all friends here now. Oh, you recognize this song, Manjushree? They're to my mother's lyrics.
I'm not entirely well versed in all of Her Majesty's poems set to music. But if I were to take a stab, perhaps Timlai Hasera?
Your modesty is as remarkable as your memory. This is fantastic. I'm so grateful that you've come. Dai was most enthusiastic.
Oh, so will the Crown Prince be here then?
He is expected, yes.
If you would excuse me, I would love to take a look at those roses.
Oh, of course. Hariraj will escort you.
This isn't just about the music then, is it?
It really is, unfortunately.
Perhaps it's best to speak plainly.
Is Mr. Hodgson here?
Nobody else ever seems to pay much credence to the fact that he ever is. Why should you?
Because you have no reason to lie.
I'm very grateful for your trust. Mr. Hodgson? Mr. Hodgson? I'm afraid not. He visits on his own terms, not mine.
I see. I rather hoped.
I did too.
I know that you believe that my family has reservations about the Indian government. For good reason. You have supported the people's movement.
That is inconsistent with being a democracy and enabling such impulses elsewhere.
Perhaps the panchayat system outlived its usefulness.
As 1990 indicated.
But surely after we became a constitutional monarchy, you should have been more forthcoming.
Just as surely your esteemed mother could have handled the situation of Mrs. Sonia Gandhi's entrance into the Pashupatinath temple, which, as we all know, was not allowed, with more statesmanship.
Whether I consented to my mother's decision or not is immaterial. That's water under the bridge.
But we still see the water.
It moves slowly.
Please, let us not quibble, Manjushree. I have no desire to alienate you. I am simply concerned, that is all.
How can I help you?
The Maoists. They can be of no use either to us or to you.
I do have leftist sympathies.
But surely not Maoist ones. Do you applaud the wanton taking of life?
I abhor violence. But where justice is slow, I can understand it.
Yes, which is why I have a proposition.
You do?
Governments fall like packs of cards here. The only constant has been the royal family.
Which isn't entirely popular. Especially not after your cousin ran over and nearly killed one of your most celebrated singers.
Paras does not speak for us.
Yet he benefits from being one of you.
Yes, you're right. But my father, you know that he tries so very hard.
That I do.
I remember his saying, one should move with the times, but with roots firmly embedded in the country's soil and the best of its legacies.
A wise middle path.
He is living it, Manjushree.
And your older brother?
I assume you refer to his slapping me last year when I was pregnant?
I do not deem it my place to ask.
He did. He wishes to marry someone of whom most of us do not approve, especially my mother.
It seems as though it's his choice to make.
He has responsibilities, Manjushree. My parents made my match, why shouldn't they his?
This is a conversation for you to have with him.
Her mother's family is of the Scindias. That implicates your country in this situation. Surely your interest should be more than just academic.
Even if it were, I'm constrained to speak of no more than commerce.
The implication could well be through commerce. It has been done before, much to our studied disadvantage.
I am but a functionary and I can only do my country's bidding.
I'm asking you as a friend, Manjushree. Please.
What can I do?
2 things. Please help to broker a peace with Prachanda. My father cannot bring himself to see the Royal Nepal Army take the lives of those he knows to be his subjects as well.
How could I possibly?
Through Kalpana.
You mean that Kalpana is...
There's so much for you to know yet, but there's goodwill for you.
And what's the second?
Well, perhaps the first in order of what you could do. There's a party at my brother's place shortly, on June the 1st. We are all due there as family. Miss Devyani Rana, as you would appreciate, will not be invited given circumstances. Could you possibly meet her that day? Explain how things cannot work out? That if he chooses her, he renounces the kingship.
And what if he does? Your younger brother receives the throne.
Senior line has precedence. Much as I love Nirajan, this must not be flouted.
I don't know if I can...
His Highness, Crown Prince Dipendra.
Dipendra, the Lord of Candlelight. If only he could live up to his name.
Greetings, Shruti. What a pleasure to see you, Miss Roy. I agree with you about the thin crust.
It's a pleasure.
I think she's told her.
That there was no dentist.
Perhaps. But she'd likely figured that out by now.
It must be hard for her.
To feel betrayed.
To wonder whom to believe.
Hodgson.
Sometimes you have to fabricate the people you trust.
Yes, even as ghosts.
What about the bird though?
I think she just got lucky there.
They look civil enough.
Brother and sister.
Nepalese and Indian.
Will she be thrown to the Maoists then?
Prachanda himself.
And?
She'll trade as expertly as she can and a few policemen will be saved.
Yes. I wonder why she was named after a bodhisattva.
The Darjeeling connection, I suspect.
Chicken on toast.
I'm vegetarian.
Oh, I'm sorry. I omitted to remember.
Let me get the spinach patty, ma'am.
Please.
We bring the Big Band Lounge to the Garden of Dreams. This is a rare privilege, and we are very grateful to Her Highness Princess Shruti for hosting the occasion, and to His Highness Crown Prince Dipendra for gracing it. Princess Shruti expresses her regrets that her husband, His Excellency Gorak Shamshar Jang Bahadur Rana, could not be here as he is traveling. Their young royal highnesses are currently in the happy custody of their majesties.
Simply put, this is an act of nearly complete self-indulgence, except that it's shared with thy
His Highness tells me that he'd like us to sing a quartet. Myself, Miss Pasnyath, Miss Roy, and Mr. Thapa.
What did you have in mind, Your Highness?
I'm beginning to see the light by Duke Ellington.
I never cared much for moonlit skies. I never winked back at fireflies.
But now that the stars are in your eyes, I'm beginning to see the light. I never went in for afterglow or candlelight on the mistletoe. But now that you've turned the lamp down low, I'm beginning to see the light.
Used to ramble through the park.
Shadow boxing in the dark. Then you came and caused a spark. That's a 4-alarm fire now. I never made love by lantern shine. I never saw rainbows in my wine. But now that your lips are burning mine, I'm beginning to see the light. I'm beginning to see the light. I'm beginning to see the light.
There's some piriri.
Resama piriri, resama piriri. Unirajaki harama manjan. Resama piriri, resama piriri, resama piriri. Unirajaki harama manjan. Resama piriri. Enale bandu, tuinale bandu. Miyalae takeko, mirga bilai takika hoina. Mayalae takeko. Resama piriri, resama piriri. Unirajaki harama manjan. Resama piriri.
Mr. Hodgson, is it?
Yes, Your Highness.
"9 days. 9 days he took to die. For a butcher, he bought the job. What do you have to say, Mr. Hodgson?
Let the dead bury their dead, Your Highness. I prefer not to speak ill of them.
You are quite right. After all, he was your friend.
He helped Nepal attain giddying heights.
And his giddiness accelerated his plummet.
Perhaps.
Rana Jung Pandey is avenged of his father. And I dare say, Sunmadhar Thapa will be of his uncle.
It is as their highnesses or your highness permit.
Permit? I permit people to ride off cliffs, to fling themselves down the extent of wells. I do not stop them. I encourage them.
Indeed, your highness.
If I were to permit you to such a course of action, which one would you follow?
That of my liege in England. You will recall that in spite of my deference to the crown in Nepal, I am here by leave of another master.
You are quite naughty.
If your highness wishes to believe that.
Perhaps I shall let you leave the valley. Would you like that?
If the permission were yours to bestow, Your Highness.
Why shouldn't it be?
You know why.
I could have the rules amended.
I may well have departed by then. But I thank you for the thought.
Who will let you go?
Your royal forebears and you, Your Highness.
And Nepal?
Nepal will stay. However much the strain, she will stay.
Tugs and pulls, expansions and contractions.
And yet at heart, always Nepal.
If and when the time comes, I believe we shall miss you, Mr. Hodgson.
As I, your country, Your Highness, I am grateful for the opportunity to have served.
Miss Rana will take a few more minutes. She expresses her regrets for the delay.
Very well.
I'm here merely as an escort. The deliberations between you and Miss Rana will be beyond my earshot.
For the first time since my arrival, I am touched.
You do me an injustice, Miss Roy.
Do I? Whenever I looked through my window, there was a man on the street, observing me and sending you reports to complete, indicating that I was at something surreptitious, when all that I was doing was to wash the dishes. Tell me now, Mr. Man of the moment, sophisticated, surveillant and intelligence robot, why oh why was I subjected to this grand design? I'm just a counselor and not some influence malign.
We needed to know just who and what you were, where you would go. You could have been the mole of espionage, the soul, and we'd be damned if we took the risk. We had to know.
What did you find? A tale of cloaks and daggers. Were you blind to all the sights around you? Did you make believe my part, where I comply and play your game, you insolent upstart?
Why just blame me? What of your lady in waiting? Couldn't you see how she plotted and planned, complicit in stand with the royals, the Maoists and me? And now you're a stooge if you ever refuse. You're a haul up in front of your team. Commerce Councilor caught by just how much was she bought? Asked thine acre, the spy of our dreams.
You better leave, there's nothing more to be said.
Think again, there'll be dreams in your head, the agonizing questioning what you might have done, before disgrace of face to hold your place in the sun.
Oh wait, this gets worse by the word.
Then again, I'm the one with the bird, the greater necklace laughing thrush, you called it correct. The score though is reversed and more by how much do you suspect? I mean you no ill. You were a pawn at C4, a game of chess, a queen's gambit, a captured sacrifice. Even your knight, the celebrated Mr. Hodgson, even he would turn you in for a negotiated price.
He never would.
Fine, put the word to the test. Call him.
Mr. Hodgson? Mr. Hodgson? Brian!
Upon recall, he spurned the one that loved him, took their children, went away when she was great with child, never turned back, nor son nor infant daughter, took an English girl to wife, left a memory defiled. Good day.
appears to be an accident, madam. Miss Rana has just faced an emergency and cannot see you now.
What? Is there anything I can do to help?
Only by leaving, ma'am. Now, please.
What is all the population sleeping? Don't they know Kathmandu's bleeding now? Can you conceive what will rock this city when it knows what's hit Narayan hitting now?
Why, what's happening?
Shot!
Who?
His Majesty the Princess too! Prince Nirayan!
Who shot them all?
What is going on? What is this madness taking over? Who could even...
The Crown Prince!
What?
He killed his mother too.
Rumors abound, they come in clouds of menacing purpose over Nepal. Something was rotten within Kathmandu, something was festering like a boil, something was suppurating, putrid, oozing from the poison soul.
And it was the 1st of June, 2001.
Still smoldering fire, your breathing embers betray how you conspired at the end of the day to cast a nation to its knees in some maleficent disease. 10 royal dead will lie atop a funeral pyre, still smoldering fire.
The son who shot Kathmandu has been named to rule instead. But this avatar of Vishnu lies comatose with a bullet in his head. Couldn't even finish the job properly.
Divining rod, please tell me how this is played. When God kills God, shouldn't the earth be afraid? Please advise us what to do when this celestial point of view is shattered off.
Or must we languish in this horror and this anguish? Must this madness quite consume us? Till you stay to thirsty bloodlust, and we're lost to your grandstanding show of fire.
Smoldering fire, still smoldering fire, still smoldering fire.
Miss Roy,
Oh, Mr. Hodgson!
come away from this crazy confusion. Come away now, there's a place not far. You will be safe there till it's over.
The embassy!
And where's the car?
Charu? Charu?
Afraid he's gone, or didn't you notice? No, I'm sorry, it's all happening just too fast.
We might walk.
8 miles you couldn't make it, all the roads are blocked. The dangers of a riot are too close. They press upon the unsuspecting on the corner of the next turn. Who'll be caught within this madness, closing in upon this darkness. I suggest you skip your turn.
But where then shall we go?
Trust me.
What choice have I?
Very little. away from this insanity. I promise you, there is hope inside.
To think when I started in the springtime, now 3 months, it could end tonight. Where are we?
Home.
Home?
Where there is rest, there is home.
This is a grave.
Yes. Can you see me now?
Yes. Could it be?
You've been through so much tonight.
And that's why this is home?
Yes.
So Mr. Thapa, he was wrong.
No, he was completely correct. It's just that sometimes when you cannot rectify things in one lifetime, you're thrown a second opportunity in the next one.
I visited your son's grave in Darjeeling. I want you to know that he is well taken care of.
Thank you. That means more than I can say.
They call this place the Begum Ka Imambara. The wife of the Nawab of Oudh was buried here, next to Meher-e-Nisa. But even before that, it was a Begum Ka Kabar, for my Begum.
And when the storm is over, you can return.
And I shall cross the Kalupani to Alderley in Gloucestershire.
Without losing caste, as you never had it.
Is death a happy place?
It depends upon perspective, although the alternative doesn't always offer itself. For me, it offers reparation.
And for me, reconciliation.
I'm glad. So what's next?
We have eternity to find out. But for you...
I should hide. No, wait. Why?
You'll see. You're okay?
Yes.
Thank you.
You see them?
I always have.
I don't know what to believe anymore.
You asked what's next.
This is next.
And then?
Your crystal ball.
फुलका हामी एउटै माला नेपाली सर्वभौम भई फैलिएका मेची महाकाली सायुधुङ्गा फुलका हामी एउटै माला नेपाली सर्वभौम भई फैलिएका मेची महाकाली प्रकृतिका कोटि कोटि सम्पदाको आचला वीरहरूका रागताले स्वतन्त्र र आटला ज्ञान भूमि शान्ति भूमि तारै पहाड हिमाल आखण्डायो प्यारो हाम्रो मातृभूमि नेपाल बाहु जाति भाषा धर्म संस्कृति च विशाला अग्रगामी राष्ट्र हाम्रो जय जय नेपाल